Let's rock and roll. Hey guys, I'm Xander. I'm your Media Hub Coordinator at Vanguard University, and you're watching our Spotlight. Tonight we're spotlighting Scott Overpeck, and he's going to show us what it looks like to make a website using WordPress and more. Some really basic stuff, but really cool stuff that you all can use starting now, even after the Spotlight is done. And so we're going to take a look at enhancing a lot of our digital skills through tonight's Spotlight. And without further ado, I'm just going to introduce you guys to one of my favorite people in the world, and that is Mr. Scott Overpeck. How you doing, Scott?
I'm doing great. I'm really excited to be here.
Yeah, man. Thanks again for doing this.
Oh, happy to.
All right, man. Well, I'm just gonna kick the ball, kickball. I'm gonna kick it off to you, and then, bro, let's rock and roll. I'm ready for this.
All right, sounds good. So first and foremost, tonight the goal is to make sure that you understand how to quickly put together a simple website that you could use to sell a product, market an event, share your art, anything like that. This isn't going to be like, here's how to code or anything like that. In fact, that's not my background. My background is actually marketing. My goal is to help you figure out how to put together something so that you can market something that you're doing. It's not a WordPress class. We're not going to go in-depth to development principles. This is how to use a popular marketing tool. WordPress is the most popular web builder on the planet. And so that's it's just a great way to quickly put together a website if you need to for something that you're working on. Throughout, I've got several kind of sections that we're going to go through. And after each section, I'll stop and pause for any questions that anyone might have. But the first thing we're going to go through is hosting. And so the first thing, all websites need a place to live on the internet. The internet is sort of like real estate, and you need land before you can build your house, kind of a thing. So that's what hosting is. And so I'm actually going to share my screen if that's okay. Let's see here. Application. All right. So we're going to, just realized I just lost my Zoom screen here. Sorry, guys.
It's all good. I lose a lot of things in life.
So show me Zoom. There we go. All right. So what we're going to look at right now, and you should be seeing the Dream Host. Is that correct?
Yep.
Excellent. Perfect. So DreamHost is one popular host, but there are actually lots and lots of hosting services out there. And so I probably jumped into sharing before I needed to. But what we have is several different types of hosting. We have shared versus managed. And shared hosting is what DreamHost is, which we're looking at today. And then beyond that, we'll have other options where you can have really professional options. You also have WordPress.com. WordPress.com is excellent because it's free, completely free, but then you don't get your own domain name. A domain name would be like scottoverpeck.com or something like that. And so what you get is scottoverpeck.wordpress.com. And so one fun way to do things for free and take a lot of the work out of the process is actually to use WordPress.com and then go to a company to buy your domain. You buy your domain and you redirect it to your WordPress site. And so that way you're allowed to do it for free. But today what we're going to look at is shared hosting, which is the cheapest kind of regular hosting. For my particular plan that I'm showing you that I use today, this is actually mostly for me to play around with and to manage a couple personal sites and fun projects. But this one costs like $7 a month. And so it's really fairly inexpensive, especially if it's for a one-time project that you're putting up for a month or two. It's a really, really quick, easy, cheap way to do it. And the best part about this is that you get one-click installation, which makes things very, very easy. But what we're going to look at today is that you have several different, the big point though, is you have several different budget options. But the best thing to do is usually to go with shared hosting because it's very, very inexpensive. But if you need absolutely free, then you have the WordPress.com option. Budget can range anywhere from free all the way on up to very, very expensive if you're expecting a bigger project. So I have one website that I manage that gets like 20,000 people a month on the website. And so the hosting for that is not free, and it is not very inexpensive. It's a very large application that's, very robust and doing lots of stuff. But most of the time, what we're really looking for is to put a brochure or a flyer up on the internet for our projects. We want to sell sell some music that we're making, or we want to put up a event that we're hosting. And so in most cases, the very inexpensive to free options are great. And that's what we're going to really explore and actually walk through step by step today. But I wanted to give an overview of the different options and the, kind of pros and cons. And so with that, that's the end of hosting. Are there questions on hosting? It's probably one of the more complicated parts of today. After that, it's really fun. But I kind of wanted to blaze through some options because I think it's important to understand what you're doing, at least a little, because I cannot tell you how many people went to a host who shall not be named and got upsold to something they didn't need.
So that was
paid a lot of money.
Voldemort, right? Voldemort?
Yeah. That's the host that should not be named. No, they're very good at marketing, but they're not so good at technology. So,
Copy that. That. Well, going once, going twice.
Yeah.
All right, let's
excellent. So we're going to jump in here and look at how I did our one-click install. And so if you see, my internet's going to go slow. So I have a lot of domains. Please don't judge me. But one thing I did today was I created vanguard.scotoverpeck.com. I did that so that we'd have a place to install our website today, because we're actually going to go through almost the entire process. Now, every once in a while, there's an error in the process, which is no fun. And because of that, I actually did the first big step already, but I'm going to show you how I did it. And so in most low cost services, and the one, like I said, that I'm using today is DreamHost. DreamHost and Bluehost oftentimes have sales where you can get your hosting down to like $5 a month. I highly advise looking for sales and getting at $5 a month. But once you do that, they both have one-click installers. Again, we're trying to take all the tech out of this. This isn't for developers. We're going as easy as possible. And so once you get there, they have lots of things that you could install, but today we're going to install WordPress, which again, most common way to build a website on the internet. So that's basically all you see here. There are a bunch of other apps, right? But today we're doing learn more and install. Then it's as easy. Now, you probably won't have as many domains as me. So it's as easy as going through and selecting your domain, which hopefully won't look like this. And because we've already done this, but so you would select that and then automatically do everything. And that's it. There's some options here, but honestly, what you would do is click install it for me now. I'm not going to do that because I already installed it, and that'll break the site, which we don't want to do. You don't want to install the same thing on the same thing twice. But once you do that, you're going to get an email. And that email will tell you to set up it'll tell you you've been successful. And then it'll show you all the information. The email address you used. You all know my email address now. How embarrassing. Your username and all kinds of little bits of information like, hey, maybe you want some extra help on how WordPress works or things like that. Lots of fun information. But the most important thing is that it says you need to set up your password. So you would click the set up your password button there, link. Once you do that, it'll take you to your site. It'll walk you through something you can't quite see here, but basically the process of setting up your password, and then you'll land on this screen. And that's how you install WordPress. It's really, really simple if you use a one-click installer, which is why I said you should use the one-click installer. On a quick side note, if you did go for the completely free hosting, you would even skip all that, and it would make it even a little easier because WordPress.com already has WordPress installed when you go to it. But other than that, then you would land here once you got to that process. And from here on out, the processes will be the same. So are there any questions on the installation? Obviously, I took a super technical process and found a way to do it for a non-techie, but there still could be questions. So
Made it easy for us though, Scott.
Yeah, that was the goal. That was the goal. So it is no fun to do things that are hard. I like to do things that are easy. That is like the mantra of my life. I like to coast through life as
Oh
easy
my
and with
God.
as little friction as possible.
You
So
guys are seeing some of Scott Overpeck's personality here. This is great. This is great.
so there are manual installation processes. I don't advise doing the manual installation processes if you don't have to, because they're no fun. They're for developers, and all these one-click processes were created because they were hard. So I've done it. I don't advise it. I've been doing this for a long time, and I know how to do the manual. I still choose the one-click installer. Use a one-click installer.
I love it. It's like my post-production class because there are Adobe Premiere has now made life a lot easier for editing. When we, back in my day, at least I've had to do things manually. So I totally get it. I think we keep moving forward, brother.
Yeah, sounds good. So I'm going to make this window larger so you can see more of the screen. But I wanted to make it a little smaller so I could see my notes at the same time. I need to get a third monitor. That's what I really need. But so I can see my notes and share my screen at the same time. Right now I can do, because I've got you on one screen and then I've got the thing on the other, but I need a third one for my notes. All right. So with no conversation around installation, we're going to move on to themes. Now we're starting to get fun. So we got through all the boring stuff, guys. And this is really exciting because now we get to really talk about, we've cut out all the weird technical, no fun stuff. And now we get to have fun. So once you get into your WordPress install, now you get to make it your own. And so one thing we're going to take a quick look at is after we've installed WordPress, we have actually built a site. This is vanguard.scottoverpeck.com. This is right out of the box, already done. Just another WordPress site. So now we want to make this actually kind of fun and engaging and not just a green box with some text, right? So we're going to go to our dashboard. That's what the back end of WordPress is called, your dashboard. And when you first install, the great thing is you've actually got a checklist that you can follow. So you can use what WordPress calls its 2021 theme, unless you're doing this in a couple of months when they release the 2022 theme, then that'll be the default theme. Every year they release a new default theme with the latest in kind of web basics that you can use to start. So you could customize from that theme, or you can change your theme completely. And that's what we're going to talk about now, is the various theme options. So as far as options go, you got a few. You can design your theme from scratch. Again, that's a developer. That's what developers do, is they take either an existing theme and customize it through code and graphic design to make it your own, or they use a theme framework, which is kind of a website builder but designed for developers rather than us, because we're not developers, right? Or maybe somebody on the call is, but I'm definitely not really a developer as much as I like to think. But I actually, when it gets to code, I usually call somebody. I know a little bit of code, but I have people I call in code. But I put together lots of sites for quick purposes like this. And so one of the things we have are various ways that we can access themes. And themes are essentially, templates for your site. And so pre-installed in the one-click installer that I used, here's a group of free themes. These are all themes that exist, that are free, that you could jump in. And so one thing I just wanted to show you real quick is we're just going to choose one. This one's kind of fun. Here's our existing site that we already looked at. It's loading. Brand new theme. There we go. And it disappeared already. So all that to say, we have lots of theme options here. But beyond that, that's just the ones that are already installed. But now if we switch over to WordPress.org themes, we have 4,511 free themes. So these are all themes that you can choose and instantly make your website look completely different. Everything from very news-oriented sites to a pretty basic sales type site, brochure type site. If you look through, you'll see some that would work well for film production where you're showing off the different movies that you've made. You can see things that are very news-based, basic sales sites. That reminds me of a fashion magazine, but you've got lots and lots of options. These are all free. And what sets apart most of the free themes from paid themes, which we'll go through in a second here, but is that most of them don't have much functionality beyond displaying content. They may have, a special custom widget for displaying video or something like that, but for the most part, they're going to have the same functionality across the board. But you can see very dramatic different looks and feels. And so, that one's fun. I haven't ever played with that theme. That looks like a fun one to try. Maybe we should make that one our theme for today to play with. I'm going to go for it. I just fell in love with the new theme. I'm so glad I got to do this spotlight so I could discover this theme. And so it's telling me I need to use a special plugin that they're requiring. So we'll just go ahead and not do that for this time because we don't need to install a bunch of different things. We have a whole separate section on plugins. So, but the point is there are lots and lots of ideas and options throughout. And so we'll probably just stick with the existing theme here. So now we're back to our original theme here. And so one other area though that I wanted to show you is ThemeForest. And ThemeForest is one of the most popular places to buy premium themes on the internet. And so this is a place where you would get those premium themes, the ones that cost money. And so you can see that a lot of them are similar to what we were looking at in terms of very different looks and feels. But if you look, a lot of them talk about what they're for. Customizable e-commerce builder, something very specific for a specific purpose. So the driving school one is probably going to have built into it a way to schedule your driving classes, things like that. So if you're looking to provide a specific service, and there's especially if you have some money involved where you think that you'll make money off of the project, then there's definitely some benefit in looking maybe at something that has a little bit more customizable functionality, something that's very specific to what you're trying to do. And so when you have a specific goal, then sometimes coming here and looking for just your specific goal, you can find that. The other thing that you'll usually find within some of the premium themes is a lot of customization, where maybe one theme has 27 different looks that you can click through and instantly create with just that one theme. And the great thing about that is, let's say you want to keep the site updated and looking fresh and new, you can rotate through some of those different looks and feels without actually having to do a lot of content changing. Because sometimes if you're changing the look and feel of your website, maybe the elements don't play well together. When you do some customizations, then you go and choose a new theme. Maybe those customizations don't carry over well. But because you're using one theme with multiple looks, then you're able to do some bigger graphic design changes or look and feel without having to actually have really big changes to maybe the content or the functionality. So those are some of the reasons you might want to choose a paid theme over a free theme. In all seriousness, I'm cheap. I love free themes. And I've also spent enough time playing with code that if there's something it can't do, I've been able to figure out how to make it do it. So that definitely changes things. It's much cheaper to buy a theme than it is to hire a developer to program something for you. So that's why you might want to go and look at the paid marketplace, ThemeForest. So for today, we're definitely not going to be buying a theme. That's gonna go beyond the scope of. But if you don't know how to put your credit card into a form online, contact Xander and he can help you with that.
Thanks, Scott.
No problem. No problem. So we're going to go back to our dashboard here. We've picked our theme. And so that's kind of the basics of themes. And so next we'll talk about how to customize that theme and make it look for you. But are there any questions on where to find themes or what themes are or how they work?
Yeah, Scott, show me again how you went from the dashboard to the themes page.
Absolutely,
Like,
absolutely. So if your site is brand new,
Mhm.
it's this big giant button that says change your theme completely or it's the link underneath that says change your theme completely or customize your site will take you just to the customizer where you can edit the site or change a theme. But for the most part, pretty soon this stuff's going to be gone. This is for, this is for a brand new site. So on WordPress, if you see there's a left-hand sidebar menu that's always there, and if you minimize it, it goes down to just the icons, but it's always there. And so the paintbrush that says appearance has a whole list of things underneath it. Most importantly, themes. So that's where you would go otherwise. So you would just click themes, and this would show you all the themes that you have currently installed. You can do add new to add one that maybe whether you're uploading it because you bought it on ThemeForest, then you would have to upload it, or you could look at the ones that you've already installed and install new ones, like Blank Canvas, which looks very exciting, right? So, but yeah, so once you're at that point, you've got thousands of free themes to pick from. And a lot of the free themes, just, to add some more fun to it, are actually freemium, where you'll be going through the process and you'll find out that, oh, that one cool thing that I picked that theme for actually costs money. Everything else was free, but that one feature that made it stand out from the other themes. So that's something to keep an eye on. Because again, remember, I like it to be free.
For sure, for sure. Well,
So,
let's
yeah.
keep trudging, brother.
Yeah, sounds good. Sounds good. So we're going to talk a little bit now. Once we've picked a theme, and again, we've just went with the standard because it's there and so it works well. Then we're going to customize that theme, and that's going to also be under appearance and to customize. And so here we can play around with our site identity. Now, we're probably not just another WordPress theme. Our title is going to be Vanguard Spotlight. And our tagline is going to be the Xander and Xander show because of the dueling Xanders we have running the spotlight tonight. So beyond that, we can choose a logo. Sadly, I did not have time to create. I actually thought of creating a fun logo to put up, but I did not. I'll see what I have lying around here in my recent downloads to see if there's anything that might work. Okay. Let's see here. Just so you can see what happens when you select. There we go. That'll make for a fun. So we're going to upload a new file from our, so we've already created our logo in Illustrator or Canva for easy doing, doing it easily, or Photoshop or whatever tool that you use for graphic design. So we've already got that done. And so we've uploaded it. It's showing up here. And we'll go ahead and select that. Obviously, because it's a logo, it's going to be in a little bit different format there. So you have the opportunity to crop it to whatever angle you'd like. You can skip cropping, but most of the time that's not going to be advised for a logo if you're using a photo like I was currently. And so there you go. Now you can see our site now has the logo, which we just uploaded, and it now shows a title and tagline different than it previously did. And so all through a basic kind of graphic user interface that's pretty simple. Most folks know favicons are site icons. I'm not sure if my cursor displays well or not. Is that something you can see, Xander?
Yeah, I can see
Yeah.
it.
Okay, so at the top here, if you look, Most of these sites have a custom icon next to the title in the tab. But if you look, our site does not. It has a generic globe, and that's no fun at all. So if we have the right size image, and this is a specific one, it's 512 by 512. It also has to be a PNG file. That one can sometimes throw folks a little bit, but those are the two things. Then we can actually create our own custom one of those. So if you use Canva or Illustrator or Photoshop or almost any other design file, you can probably pull this together, design program. But that is one that's a little tougher because there's a little more specific, specific requirements. And to a certain extent, you kind of need to know those requirements. They list a little bit here, but if you play around with it enough, you'll figure it out because it'll give you the error message and tell you what you did wrong at the very least. Now, I definitely don't have an icon that we can use, and I don't want to spend a bunch of time in a graphic editor pulling that together. So we're not going to select a site icon for now, just to save us a little bit of time. But once those changes, you can publish. And so we'll go here. This is our old site. And now we're going to refresh. And hey, it's a little different. It's starting to look a little bit better. So we're going to go over here to our customizer and we'll go back. One other fun thing, I don't know if you can see this down at the very bottom, but they'll actually let you preview. So that's desktop view. Then there's tablet view. And then there's phone view. And so this kind of gives you an idea of what people are looking at when they look at your website. And you can see there's already some responsive design built in. So the menu goes from a big menu to a hamburger menu. That's what they call it in the web development world sometimes. But the 3 lines, that's what I have to say when I'm doing tech support for folks because they don't know hamburger. It's only known to developers and stuff apparently. But I always do everything in desktop simply because it's a lot nicer to see everything at once. But it is important to know how your site will look to folks because statistically, something like 70% of all web views actually come from smartphones. And so once you get into running a site long term, you can figure out how that varies for your audience. Very business focused sites tend to spend more time on the desktop. Very consumer driven sites will spend more time on the phone. And so your mileage will vary depending on your demographics, but it's important to know that something that looks good on a desktop might not look as good on even this example of where that headline is, right? That headline is so far down that you can't actually see what feels like the main point in the phone view. So we definitely wouldn't want to leave it just like that, probably if we were doing if this site was going to be production ready by the end of the night. So, but once you go through that, then we can go into colors and we can quickly decide through hex keys. And for those who are handy in Adobe, you can use colors.adobe.com to quickly generate a palette. That's one of my favorites. They actually, that was fun fact. I actually used that long before Adobe owned it. I used the company they bought and turned into colors.adobe.com. So it's, it's not but now that it's all integrated into Adobe, it does make workflow a lot easier. But you can quickly choose a handful of predetermined colors. You can use the slider to make it uglier or prettier. And in this case, at least, it definitely gets uglier the brighter you go. Yeah, in my opinion, your mileage may vary, right? To each their own. I don't judge. But you can change here to you can also use hex. And so whatever your preference is, whatever you love, whatever you don't like. One interesting thing that now is available in a lot of themes, but not all themes, is dark mode support. So if you've spent much time on any cell phone review websites, they will talk a lot about dark mode, and it's a great way to save battery on your phone. It's a great way to prevent eye strain, but it's terrible for web developers. If you enable dark mode support, it will basically ruin everything you did right. But on the flip side, some end users will be happy because it will make their things look good for their eyes. But one natural tendency, people see, oh, I'd love to help. And so, oh, I want to support people who are using dark mode. And so they'll select dark mode. And that will do nothing what it looks like right now, but here we can dark mode's on. So if your site is white and black like ours is right now, dark mode works pretty darn well. But let's just go back into the default. And you kind of lose some of the pizzazz, some of the work that you did to make it look and feel like your own, and you just lose it. And so, especially if your site is more complex, also there's some of these graphical flourishes that have been added to the site automatically that just don't work. And so my advice is always to not support dark mode unless you really, really have a strong developer who actually builds in, because in their automatic coding of it, you can see they missed this area and it really doesn't look great then. And so you run into things that maybe just don't work. So my advice is not to use dark mode support, but I wanted you to see it because what happens whenever there's a checkbox, people like to check it and then they do it without thinking about it. And then, so I do use dark mode on my phone and I show up to your website and it basically doesn't work because you were trying to support me who uses dark mode on my phone, but your site actually is broken. So I say just leave dark mode off on a site that you're building yourself. You really want a great developer to do that. The automated get you to dark mode features just aren't there yet. But this is where you can select, and depending on your theme, there may be more options under colors. But in this particular theme, the only big setting there you have is the background color. Our next option is a background image. Most sites don't look good with the background image, but if you should so desire to have a background image, you can. And some sites will look quite nice with it. Not this one. So I would advise not having. You can also adjust once you do that, the size, whether it repeats, whether it scrolls with the page like that, or stays static and the rest of the elements change. You can also move around where it's aligned on the page. You can have it fill the screen. You can have it fit to the screen. You can do lots of things, but most of the time, what I advise is to remove it. That's usually the best route. Once you get to there, you get into the really fun stuff and the really important stuff. This is how you organize your content. So you have a couple of menu options. Every theme is going to have different places where menus can live, but you can customize what's on your menu. You can also look at your different locations. You can select, if you're doing a quick brochure site, this can save you some time, automatically add new pages to the menu. Basically, when you create a page, it automatically shows up in a menu. If you're doing a more complex site that has a lot of pages, a lot of times you don't want that. A lot of times you want your menu really simple and you use other graphic tools to get people to the pages, or you use search to get people to those other pages. So those are just some options. But one thing, you can also nest pages, right? So if you see I moved about in and about disappeared over here, but a plus sign showed up next to home because now about is under home. And if we move it back, it'll show up back in the main menu. And we can do that with any page. We can add new items. When we add items, we can add posts. We can add categories from our website, which we'll get to when we get to the content section. We can add tags. We can add different formats, different things. So most common, you're going to be adding pages or custom links. Sometimes some menus will have specialty menus for social media, things like that. That may show up in your custom links. In fact, I believe, let's see here. So we're going to finish with this one. We're going to go back. We'll go to our secondary menu. Yeah, so on this one, you can see that Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and email are actually and right now they're set to just generic ones. But here you can update that. And then, you can add the important ones because WordPress, like most software, was created by old people, right? So it doesn't have TickTock. And so here's where you could add your TickTock. And so you add, It's always best to pull the link directly from the website, so you make sure you get it right, but that should do the trick. There we go. So now we'll go and take a look here. And so you see, they didn't even have an icon for TikTok. How sad. That's how you know it was created by really, really, really old, boring people. But now
We're old and boring, Scott.
no, you and I both have TikToks. We didn't create WordPress. Oh, you didn't want anyone to know about your TikTok. I'm sorry.
It's all right. That was the wrong website anyways. It's Xander.
Yeah. No, I just made it up. Yeah. That was, I didn't really look up. I didn't plan to do that for sure. So
I'll put my TikTok in the chat.
There you go. Perfect. So anyway, you can also adjust. This is always helpful. I just saw the chat. So you can also adjust the names of the menus, especially in a more complex site or on a site even like this one where, primary just might not be that meaningful to you. So you can change the names, and that could be really helpful for you to keep track of, like, oh, if you call that secondary menu social media, it'll make more sense what you need to put there, right? So that's just a useful tool for keeping track of what's in your menus. The next customization option is widgets. Widgets are where a lot of power comes for your site. And you can see, because this is our first time, this is the great thing about WordPress. Again, the first time that you start setting stuff up, it even gives you a little helpful information. So instead of making up what I'm going to say, I'm just going to read it. It says, your theme provides different block areas for you to add and edit content. Try adding a search bar, social icons, or other types of blocks and see how they look on your site, right? So here's all of the widget areas, right? And so from here, you can customize all of those things with all kinds of stuff, lots and lots and lots of stuff. So using this, you can do all kinds of things, from posting information about the book that you just wrote. You can make sure that if you just did, used Amazon CreateSpace to release your first comic book, you can have an actual spot where people can, purchase it right on the site using a quick thing. You can throw in a TED Talk that, supports your idea for changing the world. You can do all kinds of things, and there's lots and lots of different tools here that you can embed, that you can add a login, logout button if you're planning to have users engaged on your site. There's just a ton of different options. Put the latest posts from your blog, have a calendar of all the things people are doing, but also you could create buttons. So you can really develop a robust page just by using a lot of these features. Don't necessarily have even the time in an hour to show you every one of these features, but there are so many here. And so by using what WordPress calls their block editor to develop your widgets, you have lots of options. We'll show you one other place where you can do some work on your widgets. It's a little different. It's a different layout and format, but has some of the same functionality. But it's where I personally typically edit my widgets, so I wanted to show you because it's a different area. The other thing is homepage settings. So this is, the standard for this site is to have this fun homepage. Obviously, this is just a template, and we're probably not selling impressionistic paintings in this group, but if you were, then you could leave this site exactly as is, but we're probably not going to do it. And so what we do, this homepage is called Create Your Website with Blocks. So we'll go to that page in a moment. But you could also select a different page. Maybe you want the blog to be your main page, or some sample page, or your about page. This is how you create what happens when somebody goes to vanguard.scottoverpeck.com or yourdomain.com. The other thing is where your posts show up. That's going to be your blog. Sometimes people will call that news or stories or something like that. It really depends on what you're using the website for. But the technical term is posts for that type of content. And so that's why that shows up that way. And then beyond that, this is just whether if somebody's looking at a page that shows a bunch of posts, whether it shows a summary of those or the full text. The best practice is usually summary because it increases clicks. And in the internet world, clicks are important. So you do summary, and then people click through to see the full content. But as we're getting close on time, we really want to get into the super fun stuff. So we're going to publish our changes and talk about a few final things in settings. So here we have this side menu. This is where all the magic happens on your website. So we'll start at the dashboard just so people know what it looks like. And remember, by the time you're doing a site on the regular, a lot of this will be off. So we'll dismiss that. You can edit and customize this dashboard to look any way you want. But posts are where new content goes. This is how a blog or fresh, regularly scheduled, regularly occurring content will show up. And that's as simple as clicking Add New. Again, you're going to get lots of helpful hints on how to do stuff. But this is a post. And here that block editor shows up again. So you can go with basic content or lots and lots and lots of fun options. So one really common thing is for folks who maybe are working on film type work, they'll embed or post from Vimeo or from YouTube or embed from some other site. And then so they'll use one of these blocks here. And there you go. So then you can just drop in the YouTube link and you'll have yourself a post that has all of the, this is a post, and then shows the video and displays it in a really nice format. And then once you do that, you can use categorization. You could even change the link that people use. Right now, you can see our links are ugly. But when we go through our settings, we're actually going to talk about how to make our links pretty, because pretty links are the best. But that's posts. So that's kind of your fresh content. Media is just a place to organize the various files that are stored on your website. Pages are another super important one. We're going to publish that. And you can also schedule your posts to go out on a certain day. This is especially nice if you are like me and do a lot of work late at night, but you want those posts to show up on social media and in people's inboxes, because you can distribute all those posts automatically once those posts go out to some of those types of things. And so that's a great way. I oftentimes schedule them for morning because I usually am working on it late at night myself. Pages, we already looked at what pages look like in the menu, but this is where those pages are created. And the most important page is this one, your front page. This is the home page of your website. And so we wanted to look at how to update the content there. And the great thing about WordPress these days, and this is a more recent change, but is that now almost everything has the block editor completely built in. And so you have lots and lots of options. Even so, just on this one picture, you can change completely the look and feel with just a couple of clicks through a graphic user interface. And you can change the default style so that all of them show up the same. But you can make one rounded and one with borders and one with a frame. Another one rounded. You can just have lots of fun with that. Obviously, you can then click and transform. Right now it's a gallery, but let's make it columns or overlapping. And so we can just change things around, move things, completely change the look and feel. But after we do that, we can just go ahead. Let's just go ahead and go crazy and pull up our editor and put a new. So what kind of media? Let's see. Just put a random picture of somebody playing a board game there, because that's what I had handy. It's not loading, but then you can put some text. And anywhere you see that plus sign pop up, you can pull any of these things. So there it goes, finally loaded. So you can add a heading, make it fun. And so there's lots and lots of just simple tools throughout built in. And so anywhere you see those plus signs, you can just add new content. Obviously, anywhere you see existing content, you can say, yeah. So there's lots and lots of fun options. And so that can change things around very quickly. once you have your homepage done, because that's really one of your most important parts in a website is where people land when they know your name, right? You can see that we made lots of changes. So did we refresh? There it goes. So you can see now we've got the rounded one and the weird framed one and the other rounded one and our gibberish with the board game and fun headings. And now it says this is fun. And so we've changed the site around. You can see that TickTock now shows up there to probably not Xander, but somebody named Xander. Maybe not one of the Xanders on this call, but yet another Xander. And you know, there can never be too many Xanders in the world. That's what I always say.
There's a lot of them, Scott. There's a lot.
That's what I hear. That's what I hear. It's almost like a pandemic of Xanders.
Wow. Wow.
So one last area I really wanted to show you that's for adding functionality. And so this shows you the robustness. We've talked about the basic customizations, but the robustness, you can go to our plugins. We're going to go straight to add new. So plugins are ways to add functionality to the website, as endemic, if you will. Oh, that is good. I really like that. Wow. That's going to be the theme of the next website we build.
Endemic. Oh my gosh.
So from here, you can see a handful of themes that are already, or plugins that are already in here and featured. You can see popular plugins. But all of these are ways to add much more advanced functionality. So when you're looking to do something, if your website doesn't have a capability or a capacity to do something that you really want it to do, there's a chance that some developer out there has already coded it. And so you just have to implement it. And so that's a place where you can find. And so there are literally millions of plugins. So we don't have time to even scratch the surface of what plugins can do, but plugins can take your site from, you know, being a brochure to being, just as an example, WooCommerce is the most popular e-commerce platform. So you want to sell you want to turn an online store, boom, you throw that in there. And now this basic, and it's as simple as clicking install and we're done. We have now, within a couple of seconds here, you'll see, we literally will have all of the ability to add products to our website that we've been doing. Obviously, it takes a little bit of configuration to set up, like, you know, credit card processing and all those kinds of things. But this is a very, very useful tool, the plugins, to be able to really, really just build out the functionality of your site and help it to accomplish, even again, without programming skills, help you to accomplish most any goal. You know, it might not be the most unique and it might not always be exactly the way that it comes in your head, because there are just limitations to what maybe you can do with out of the box tools. But it's trying to get me to set up our online store. So you can see it works. So now we're going to just close all this out because we don't want to actually set the whole store right now. But I did want you to see how easy it was. So now you see, literally, I can go add a new product. And the great thing is, I do want to show you that it's exactly the same basic setup as setting up a new post, setting up a new page. They use that same type of information. And so it's just going through and punching in the little bits of information. And so the last thing, though, to show you guys is your settings, because your settings are where you kind of make sure that your site works as you should so desire. So most of these are going to be standard and you'll just want to go with the default. But once you get to writing, you can say, maybe if you have multiple categories, you can make changes there. Usually not super important. Reading is an important one, though, that you want to take a look at, where this is where you could also, we showed you on the customizer, but this is where you could also change where your homepage is located. You could say maybe you're not ready for search engines because you're still building it, or you're planning on using it in the future. Maybe it's something you're doing for now, but you're not planning to launch for another month or so. So you could discourage search engines. Discussion. This is how you manage all of your comment settings. Lots of folks turn off comments because they just are rife with spam. So that's usually what I would say, unless you're really looking for a discussion-oriented site. The only other one here that I really want you to see before we start winding down and going through any other questions is your permalink settings. So we saw those ugly permalinks earlier. That's the URLs that are generated, the web addresses that are generated by your site. So you have lots of options. My personal preference is just post name. Unless your site is going to have thousands and thousands and thousands of pages, that's usually the preference. New sites usually have to go with something else because they might have sites that have the same name frequently. You could also create custom ones using a variety of these tags. Again, that's probably overkill for most of the purposes that we're talking about, but one fun one is something along the lines of doing something like author, then post name, or even author, post name, and category. And you can adjust those in any fashion. But that way, if you're trying to really have, make it easy for people to figure out what they're looking at or what they're doing, that's a great way to do it. But really, at the end of the day, the reason that I show you all this is because the most important part about WordPress is the ability for anybody to jump in and to create content, right? And content is really what your focus is. You're creators. You're not developers in most cases. That's why we're having this conversation. So this is a way to get all of that stuff out of the way as quickly as possible. And so, it can be easy to really, really stress about every one of these details. And there's lots of options and lots of opportunities to build more and more functionality or create a better and better looking design. But at the end of the day, what you really want to do is pick a theme that you think looks okay, and then start creating the content and really, sell your idea, sell your content, post your posts, do what you set out to do. Because most of us didn't set out to be web developers. We set out to be filmmakers. We set out to be content creators. We set out to be whatever we set out to do, marketers and nonprofit, executives and whatever the case may be. But our goal is really to get our message across to people. And the design is an important element to that, in as much as we want the design not to distract people from it, right? We want it to help lead them to our content. So you pick a nice theme, but then you really focus in on content. And so it's all about your posts and your pages. And you don't have to stress about all that other stuff, even though we went through a lot really quick. So it can sound overwhelming or stressful, but that's really the main thing. Is all of this stuff is pretty simple and pretty easy to set up in an hour or two, if you're not also explaining it while you go. So I've literally pulled together quick brochure websites in an hour. Just to say, hey, we have this idea and we want to see if people like it. So let's put a little website together and put it in front of somebody and say, what do you think? And so that's the great thing about tools like this. And with that, I'll turn it over to Xander and any questions and any other fun stuff.
Thanks, Scott. Are there questions out there, guys? Anyone got any thoughts, comments?
I do have one. I was wondering, when you talked about scheduling, I was wondering, because for work, I occasionally have to work with blogs and stuff. And I was wondering if with WordPress, there's a way to use, I don't know if Hootsuite works with blog posts, but is there a WordPress scheduler to schedule blog posts to submit through a website, or is there anything that you know of in that realm?
So I'm not sure if I fully understand, because what I'll say is, what I'm hearing you say is, I think is probably what I showed. So I want to make sure. But yeah, when you go to, rather than publish, you can actually set it to schedule to go out at a certain time. And then so as an example, if you're using Hootsuite specifically, from there you can set, if Hootsuite is set up to pull from the RSS feed created by your website. And if that doesn't make sense, maybe I'm sure Xander will probably share my contact info, so I could go more in detail with you one-on-one if you'd like. But basically, once it's published, that RSS feed is usually, I think the max on Hootsuite. I haven't used Hootsuite in a couple of years, but I think the max on it was once an hour. So it would pull it. It would, from the moment it was published, within an hour, then it would pull down to your social media feeds as a result. Does that make sense? Does that answer your question?
Yeah. I think my dog had run into me halfway through there, and
okay, perfect. Yeah. So on the posts, when you're doing the posts, which is how blogs are done, there's a scheduler option right next to the publishing button. So you have the option. Yeah. So you have the option of either publish or or schedule.
Gotcha. Awesome. Yeah, that answers it.
No problem. Sounds good.
And, Professor Kesa in the chat also said there is a Hootsuite WordPress plugin as well.
Excellent.
I also put Scott's email in there just in case anyone wants to touch base with him, as he requested just moments ago. Feel free to email Scott.
Yeah.
Good question, Christian. Sweet. Any other questions out there? No? Going once? Going twice? Well, Scott, thank you for your time, your expertise, and just sharing some of what might be basic to you is very, enlightening and in fact, very enhancing to all of our digital skills, something that is very important to us here on our Spotlight. So thank you for letting us spotlight you tonight and again, sharing with us. For all of you guys who are with us tonight and for those who'll be watching this later, feel free. The Media Hub is here to support all of you guys. That's one of our main things, is supporting you as our comm students. You can reach out to us at mediahub@vanguard.edu, and you can make an appointment that way via email, or even just jump onto our own website at vucom.me/mediahub, and where you can check out gear, you can make an appointment, and a lot of other fun stuff. But again, Scott, thank you again, brother. Blessings to you. And with that said, I'm going to stop this recording.